You're on mute, Arish. You're still on mute. Like الميكرو مفكر.
Sorry. Shall we start?
Definitely, yeah.
Yes. Welcome everyone to the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society Esprit Student Branch first session and first event. It is CIS Talks, Dive into Computational Intelligence. I'm very thrilled to have my guest, Imen Masmoudi, for our first session. Welcome, Imen. I wish that all of us enjoy this session. Also, feel free to ask any question anytime. Just raise your hand. And thanks. Hope you enjoyed this session.
Thank you, Arish. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm really excited about this CIS chapter, IEEE l'Esprit. So today is the introductory, so the first session for CIS Talks. Today we're going to have an introduction to AI and computational intelligence. I'm Imen Masmoudi. I'm Google Developer Student Club Mentor and founder at my university. I'm a Women Tech Maker Ambassador at Google and Tunis Toastmasters elected president and co-founder. And I'm an industrial engineering student at ENIT. And I'm ENIT's Club's committee president. So they may look too much, but this is what I'm doing for the moment. And I'd like you to join our Slido. So I don't know if you already have an idea about Slido. So just go to the website, slido.com. You can open it on your phones. You can just scan the QR code. You can use your phones or feel free to open another window. When you go to slido.com, you can type this the code to join our Slido for tonight. So please do that. As soon as you do that, I'll know. So technically I'll know. So yeah, let's give you 1 minute to log into Slido. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and yeah. So if you already logged into Slido, just say like I'm in or something in the chat, please, so that we know that you're in. I'm in, so Ala's in. All right. Other than Ala, there's Ahlam. Ahlam is in. Great. What about the others? Amir is in. Great. right. What about the others? Are you all able to log in? Are you all right? I see Anis, Hamzi, Mariam. Great. So let's say we start first question in the Slido. Okay, so my first question for you today is, did you drink enough water today? Just to make sure if you are hydrated. So yeah, just pick a number between 1 and 7. Okay, there's a 6 already, twice. That's great. I see 4 people who are pretty hydrated. Alright. Alright, so in total 5. Your score as a group is 5. Alright. Alright, so only 10 people answered the first question. I see that on Google Meet you're more than 11%. So let's wait a little, just to give you all the chance to answer the question. Any more answers? Let's go to the next one. All right. So in total 4.3. All right. Maybe you should consider drinking more water, guys. It's pretty hot. It's really hot weather. You don't want to get dehydrated. It's not good for your brains, and neither for your body. All right. Going on to the next question. I'd like to ask you about the types of intelligence that you know. So I think we all know that there are so many types of intelligence. But what are the types that you know? See 1 participant typing. 4 are typing, 8, 7. Alright, what are the types of intelligence you know? Okay, there's social intelligence, definitely. Emotional intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Linguistic intelligence. So many people said emotional intelligence. Alright. Artificial intelligence. Logical intelligence. Okay, there's 2 participants are typing. So, linguistic computational intelligence, of course. Visual intelligence. Right. Social, kinesthetic intelligence. And 9 people already answered. So there's 1 more typing. Alright, so I see that so many people said emotional intelligence. I really like that. Alright. Now, the definition of intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So it's basically your adaptive capacity, or it's something like that. This is the current your IQ classification. So they classify the intelligence coefficient between very superior and extremely low. That's one way to classify it, but there are so many types of intelligence. There is the learning intelligence, the perception, the problem solving, linguistic intelligence, the reasoning intelligence. Some even say that some people are geniuses in sports, so sports can be a type of intelligence. Yet today, I'd like to introduce another type of intelligence, that's the machine intelligence, not human intelligence. There's a saying that says there is no reason and no way that human minds can keep up with an artificial intelligence machine by 2035. So artificial intelligence is definitely the thing that's gonna go on the long way. So I prepared a few definitions. Let's start with the basic definitions. What is computational intelligence? Computational intelligence usually refers to the ability of a computer to learn a specific task from data or experimental observations. That's computational intelligence. As for the artificial intelligence, which is a more general term I saw, and there are a few differences between computational and artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence is a wide-ranging branch of computer science that concerned with building smart machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. So basically, artificial intelligence wants to create a type of intelligence that can typically take the place of the human being. As for the machine learning, well, we will see in a diagram later on. Machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence, so it's a part of it. And computer science too, which focuses on the use of data and algorithms to imitate the way that humans learn, gradually improving its accuracy. So basically, we are going to learn here through algorithms to imitate the way that humans learn. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So basically, there's AI, machine learning, and then deep learning. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning, which is essentially a neural network with 3 or more layers. We will talk about neural networks later on, but let's keep in mind that it is based on neural networks with 3 or more layers, and that deep learning drives many artificial intelligence applications and services that improve automation, performing analytical and physical tasks without human intervention. It's basically machine learning, but with neural networks that are more than 3 layers. I also would like you to know what data mining is, because it's a term that is there and we do use it a lot. So data mining is the process of analyzing a large batch of information to discern trends and patterns. Data mining can be used by corporations for everything from learning about what customers are interested in or want to buy to fraud detection and spam filtering. So basically in data mining, we focus a lot on our data. We analyze it to see the trend, the patterns, and all of that. So if you had any questions at any moment, feel free to raise your hands. I will hear you when you raise your hands, so I know that you have a question and I would stop and get to you. So please stop me whenever you want to. Okay, let's say data mining. So there's the CRISP-DM. I don't know if you heard of the term CRISP-DM before. CRISP-DM is a methodology, so cross-industry standard process for data mining. It's a process or methodology that provides a structured approach to planning a data mining project. So whenever you have a data mining project, you can use the CRISP-DM methodology. It's a robust and well-proven methodology. In this methodology, there are 6 steps. The first step is business understanding. Then there is the data understanding, data preparation, the modeling, the evaluation, and the deployment. I brought you some, so yeah, you can Google this anytime. There are so many resources on CRISP-DM. It's very useful, and yeah, if you're thinking about going on the long way, so starting projects and all of that, it's very useful to use a methodology. I brought you some important diagrams. That's one of the most important diagrams for me. So the intersection between computer science, math, and statistics, and the domain business knowledge. So we all know math. We all started by math and statistics. Well, before we had computers, there always have been math and statistics, and there was business/domain knowledge. So let's say the intersection between math and statistics and domain knowledge or business knowledge. That's how we get traditional research. So we do research through using math and statistics in a business domain or specific domain. We get the computer science/IT. When it intersects with a domain or business knowledge, it gives us software development, because usually when we apply IT to a business domain, we will have softwares. That's how we're going to do it, because someone from the business domain won't really focus on the computer science, but they need softwares. Anyhow, the intersection between math and statistics and the computer science gives us machine learning. And the intersection between machine learning and business domain gives us data science. That's a nice catch. So data science is basically machine learning and artificial intelligence applied to a domain. That is data science. This is another diagram I really like. It's the big picture, so it gives you the big picture. You have data science, inside it you have artificial intelligence. Inside artificial intelligence there is machine learning. Inside it we have deep learning, and then in the deep learning there is the artificial neural networks, which imitates the human brain. I did put a resource in here, so I'll send you the presentation later on. You can check the resources. There is an article that's talking about this diagram, and it's really useful. Anyhow, let's start with the ML tasks. But before going to the ML tasks, I'd like to check if there are any questions, so we can classify the three in the domain of data science. All right, the three, say Bilal is here. Hey. So I see there are basically no questions. Ahlan, we can classify the three in the domain of data science. The three, you mean math and statistics, or IT, or the business domain knowledge? Normally, yes, the intersection between them. Like if you have something that belongs in the three of those, it's basically data science. Right, clear. But let's go to the ML. So, machine learning. Here the machine gets to do things that imitates human beings. And that's pretty amazing. So in the machine learning tasks, there are mainly three. There are more, but let's focus on those three because they are the most used, at least here in the projects that we use. So we can find the unsupervised learning, the supervised learning, and the reinforcement learning. Let's go deeper. So what's the difference between supervised and unsupervised? Okay, so these are two problems, which one of them is supervised, the other is not is unsupervised. So in supervised problems, we have labeled data. So if the first one is a duck, we know that that's a duck. We say to the model, this is a duck, and this is a duck, and this is not a duck, this is not a duck. The supervised model, in the end, will predict will give us a predictive model that will predict if it's a duck or not a duck. But in the unsupervised model, we will have just different types of data. We will feed it to our model, and our model will give us 3 classes. So basically, it will tell us that these 3 belong to the same type of things. This is a different type, and this is a different type. It doesn't know that this is a duck, this is a rabbit, and this is something else that I don't know. But it does know that these are all of the same type. This is unsupervised learning, and the other one is supervised. Anyhow, in the supervised, where we actually have labels, we find classification problems and regression problems. The difference between those can be seen in this example. So in the regression problems, we ask questions like, what is the temperature going to be tomorrow? And the model predicts it to be 84 or 85 or 85.5. So that can be anything ranging from 0 to plus l'infini. So it can be, there is a wide range. So this is continuous problem. This the output is going to be continuous. Yet for the classification problems, we will ask questions like, will the weather tomorrow be cold or hot? It will give us an output. The output will be it's either hot or cold. This is not infinity of possibilities. This is just classification. So regression problems give us a wide range, and it will give us a prediction of a value that can range in a wide range. And the classification problems will give us just a class as an output. This is regression versus classification. Now, for the reinforcement learning, it's actually another concept. It's much different than the others.
That is the question Osama asked you. Could you please repeat the example of supervised versus unsupervised learning? Thanks.
All right, great. Let's go back to that. Supervised versus unsupervised. The examples are so many, but this is just one. Supervised is basically having the model know what's the input, what's the type of it. So giving it a type, a label. It's telling the model that this is a duck and this is not a duck, and I need you to know which is the ducks and which are the not duck. That's labeled. So we did give them labels and did feed them to the model. Then our predictive model will give us an output. The output is duck or not duck. Basically, it will say it's 0 or 1. It will give you a value. But for the unsupervised, it will give you clusters. It will tell you that this group has something in common, and this group has something in common, and this group has something in common. You have 3 groups, and these 3 groups are just 3 clusters, different clusters. So the output of the unsupervised is just like, you give them pictures or data or anything, you just don't give it labels. You don't tell it that this is a duck. It will figure out on its own the resemblance between them and will give you clusters. Yes, Osama. Open up the mic.
Hello, Imen. This is Imen. So we can say supervised هو predictive والunsupervised هو descriptive.
Definitely, yes. That's another thing you can do. So there are descriptive methods and there are predictive methods.
Thank you.
Qualitative comme quantitative. Something that predicts the quantity and something that predicts a class, or that's qualitative, quality.
Exactly.
That's another thing. Definitely. classification like a yes or no question. Definitely like a yes or no, or it can be so many classes. So it can be binary classification and it can be multiple class classification. So it can be 0 or 1, it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, it can be anything, but it has to be limited. So classification is usually limited. It's in here. So classification is limited classes, and regression is usually unlimited. So it can give real numbers. Real numbers are unlimited. Yeah, basically. For the reinforcement tasks, so the reinforcement learning is basically the way that we train our kids or dogs or ourselves. It's learning by doing. It uses the method of given reward if you got it right, and given punishment if you got it wrong. So basically, this diagram explains it a lot. So the agent does an action. If this action was right, you will give it reward. Then it will know that this action was good. If it wasn't right, you will give it a punishment. And it will note it as not to do again. Don't do that again, and it will learn from it. So basically, you learn by reward and / punishment. That's reinforcement learning. Okay. As a glossary, after all of that, I presented to you 3 types of machine learning tasks. There is the supervised, the unsupervised, and the reinforcement. In the supervised part, we talked about classification and regression problems. All right. So usually in the ML projects, machine learning, we have 3 building stones. We need dataset, we need the model, the cost function, and the minimization algorithm. So when we say dataset, basically the more the better. We need so much data for the models to learn some pattern and all of that, but we need good data. So I see there's a hand.
It's me. Imen, can you clarify more the point of the cost function? And thank you.
Definitely. Oh, we will get to it in details.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, one by one. We'll start by the dataset, and then we'll go to the model, and then. So basically, in the dataset, the more the better. We need so much data in order for us to get a model that is that learned well, let's say. But we need good quality data. Data can be something like comma-separated values, CSV files. It can be pictures. It can be Excel sheet. So basically, it can be JSON file. It can be so many things. There are so many types of data. It can be stored in so many things. So data is very important. When we say data, we already talked earlier about the labels. So sometimes our data can be labeled, like here. Here, this is labeled data. There are features, different features, and then we have the target, which is the label. Here the class can be positive or negative. So this is binary classification. And yeah, this is a type of data that can be, this is pictures data. So the one on the left is labeled. The one on the right is unlabeled data. So the one on the right, we use it for supervised learning, and the other one is for unsupervised learning. Right. So when we say data, we say pre-processing. So why pre-processing? In real-world, data are generally incomplete. So data can lack values. It can lack attributes. Oh, it's raising a hand. That's a message. Can you explain what is structured data? All right. data having structure? Jalil, can you open your mic? Wala?
Yeah, I'm here.
Here. I know you're good. Do you want to try to explain it? Yeah, do you have an answer? Wala?
نعم.
Do you have the answer?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, عندي.
I give you the floor.
نعطينا الانسر.
Yeah, give the answer.
The structure data هي بتتعمل data اللي نلقاوها في تابلو، نلقاوها في شيء اكسل، في شيء تي في، في شيء اكسل. الانستراكشر داتا هي الداتا اللي تلقاها مش منظمه، مثلا تلقاها دي فوكال ميساج فوكال ولا تلقاها فيديو، هذيك مش انستراكشر داتا، هذيك مش منظمه داتا معناتها من بعد معناتها هذيك هي تاخذ حاجه مش انستراكشر، هذيك ديفيرونس.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you, Bilal. That was really nice. Yeah, so what we get from that, there's structured data, there's unstructured data. Structured is basically when you have tables, something that's stable, like, or where you know.
Structured data هي
Yeah.
في شيء تكون في تابلو، فاهم؟ تكون في شيء اكسل في تابلو حاجه منظمه معناتها.
Great. Thank you, Bilal, for the intervention. It was really useful. So here, after talking about the data and all of that, there's the pre-processing. So we always do that when we get data, because data tends to be incomplete. It lacks values. Why would it lack values? Because sometimes we collect data through Google Forms. Sometimes people don't fill all of the questions. So basically, you can have lack data, or even in the industries and all of that. Sometimes we lack data, and we just have to find solutions. And that's most of the times we lack data. Okay, so just lacking certain attributes of interest or containing only aggregated data and all of that. So yeah, usually it's incomplete. There are so many ways we can fix that. It's okay. And so there are just so many ways. You just need to figure out what's the best way. That's where we need math and statistics. So our data can be noisy, which means it can contain outliers. Outliers are cases that are not probable a lot and that we can't really count on. So sometimes we need to remove the outliers because they won't really mean a lot. They would only confuse our model. We don't need it to get confused with outliers. And sometimes our data is inconsistent, so it contains discrepancies or encodes or names. By that we mean that there are external stuff like sometimes when we have a line for a number. So let's say we need to know what's the weight of something. Some people can change. So we collect data from so many places. So some people can add kilogram. Some people doesn't add kilogram. Some people add kilogram with K in uppercase. So that can be problematic. We need to fix that before we give them the data to our model. This is inconsistent data. It's not all in the same form, or it's not all integers, or sometimes, anyhow, there are so many ways here. There's infinity. So there's the concept of data frame in Python. We usually use data frames to store our data and to use it to prepare it for our models and all of that. So data frame is a two-dimensional label data structures with columns of potentially different types. You can think of it just like a spreadsheet or a SQL table or a dictionary of series objects and all of that. So it's generally the most commonly used pandas object. It's data frames. Data frames are really useful. I advise you to learn about them. It's one of the first things you'll learn in the exploratory data analysis. You learn how to manipulate them, how to add values, how to fix values in your data frame. So yeah, it's nice to know that. And there's data visualization. So we always do data visualization in the first part when we get our data. So data visualization is the representation of data or information in a graph, chart, or other visual format. It communicates relationships in the data with images. This is important because it allows trends and patterns to be more easily seen from numeric data. So we always do data visualization when we get our data, just to figure out the relationships and all of that. So it's very important. Now we'll go to the second part, the model. This is the second building stone for our ML project. After getting the data set, we will start preparing the model. So a definition for the model is, AI modeling is the creation / training and deployment of machine learning algorithms that emulate logical decision making based on available data. It is a program or an algorithm that utilizes a set of data that enables it to recognize a certain pattern. Basically, we want to recognize the pattern in our data so that we know how to predict. Model, another definition for a model is basically weights or something like that, but we can store models in H5 files anyhow, so we will see. So this is a bunch of models. These are neural networks. You can basically create an architecture that you like, any architecture that you like. That's why I really like neural networks. You just are so free to do whatever you want. These are another types of models. So this is a simple model with one hidden layer. And this is decision tree. This is a type of model too. These are two other models. Here, I just wanted to show you the difference between linear regression and logistic regression. So sometimes logistic regression is more suitable than linear regression. Why? Well, that depends on your data. So your data is going to be very different from other data. So technically, you will have to customize your model to suit it, to better suit it. So the logistic regression here is more suitable than the linear regression. If we had another type of data, maybe the linear regression would be more suitable than the logistic regression.
How to know a model is more suitable than another one in one case? How we get to know that?
Great. Like when we say, for example, this y equals 1, y equals 0, that's clearly binary classification. In binary classifications, we use models like logistic regression or other models, but that's binary. So we usually use logistic regression. So we would never use linear regression for binary classification. I think we know why, because it doesn't give you outputs from 0 to 1, but logistic regressions gives you from 0 to 1. So it depends on your data. You just have to see your data, and then you start exploring. Sometimes you have so many possible models, you just explore, and that's when you enter research, because this is a big domain. This is just the front door. Yeah. Hope I answered you, Arish.
Yes.
So yeah, now into the modeling. So the part I like, it's not that modeling, but artificial neural networks. So when it comes to models, there are two types. So there are the models that are there. You can use them. You just customize them to your data. And there are things that you can create with artificial neural networks. So here, for the prepared models, there are so many. There are KNN, decision tree, logistic regression, k-means. You can use them. They are already coded. There are libraries where you can just like call them in and train them on your data and change some parameters. All of it. You don't have to code everything from scratch. You're not going to code a decision tree from scratch. The code is almost there, prepared for you. But artificial neural networks is the door to deep learning. So deep learning is basically going deep into your data. Deep learning is inspired from the biology, of course. So I think we all know the biological neurons, how they function. So basically they get the inputs from the dendrite. They collect that input. There's an activation point. So if it hits it, you will just activate and you will give output. It will get activated. So in that, artificial neural networks are just the same idea, basically. The idea of perceptron was first introduced by Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts. It's basically the same idea. You have so many inputs. You have weights. So you have weights and biases. Let's say x0 times the first weight 0 plus the first bias plus x1 times the second weight 1 plus the second bias, all of that, and finally you will have an output. You put it into the activation function, then you'll have the final output. That's the idea of perceptron. And then they got developed, let's say. So many ideas followed up after the first perceptron. So there we can find the convolutional neural networks. We can find the recurrent neural networks. There's big math concepts behind them. In the convolutional neural networks, we basically use filters to filter some pattern. And when we filter those patterns, we just then use dense layers to get the final outputs. In the recurrent neural networks, well, there are so many types. For starters, there are LSTMs, long short-term memory, bidirectional LSTMs. There are GRU layers. So basically, it learns from itself too. So it learns from the other network and from itself too. It's really nice that there's a mathematical concept behind it. It can be very useful. So I'd like you to see again the endless possibilities of the deep learning models. You basically can create everything that you want to create. Well, the first one is perceptron P. The second one, feed forward. There's the Markov chain. There's the Boltzmann machine. I don't know if you can read the small letters, but I will send you the presentation later on. You can see them. They're really nice. Anyhow, this is deep learning. So if you want to explore it. It's really vast. There's big research happening in there. And now let's go to the cost function / loss function. The definition for the cost function is basically it's a function that we use to calculate the deviation between the prediction and the real value. To see how it basically tells you how bad you're doing if it's big. The higher it goes, the worse our model becomes. So this is we want the cost to go to 0 for us to be like perfect for the model. They are used in the supervised learning algorithms. They use optimization techniques. Why do we use them in supervised? Because we're actually calculating a difference between real value and predicted value. So we do have a real value. So this is supervised learning. So we use these things in supervised learning. All right. Key differences between loss and cost functions. So the loss function is used when we refer to the error for a single training example. So if we want to calculate one single error, we say that this is the loss. But if we want to calculate the average of losses over an entire training dataset, now we call it cost function. The cost function is basically the average of the losses. Here I'm going to show you a small example. So this is a one neuron with one input model. So our hypothesis is theta 0, theta 1. Our theta 1 is the weight of the first weight of the first input, and theta 0 is the bias. Our parameters are basically 2, and the cost function, we're going to use this cost function. Normally it's squared squared bias, squared loss. We're going to see as mean squared error loss. So mean squared error loss, yes, this is mean squared error loss. We did the mean, we got the معاملة المويenne sur les carrés des différences. Difference is loss, squared, and mean squared error. Mean squared error loss. So in the regression loss functions, we usually use mean squared error, we use mean squared logarithmic error, we use mean absolute error. These are types that we use in the regression problems. As for the binary classification problems, we use other types of loss functions. Here they calculate how right did we get, how many right classes did we get to predict. So we can use binary cross entropy, we can use hinge loss, squared hinge loss. For the multi-class classifications, we usually use multi-class cross entropy loss or sparse multi-class cross entropy loss. Anyhow, there are so many names, the list can be so long. These are the ones I know that are super used. So this is for the loss functions. As for the minimization algorithms, what's a minimization algorithm? It's a function that we use to calculate the deviation between the prediction and the real value. So it's basically, it's minimizing the loss. It basically tells you how bad the higher it goes. Anyhow, so let's see with these graphs. Now it's going to be more clear, hopefully. So we remember our function from earlier. The new prediction is basically the bias plus theta 1 plus fois x. This is the prediction that we will get from our model. This function, if we do the derivatives of it, we would get something like this, like the first example. Here, this is our function if we change the theta 1 and theta 0. Our minimization algorithm is basically going to minimize the cost function. The goal is to minimize the cost function. Our cost function thing is for the cost function minimizing, it has so many parameters. For instance, the x1, the average, and the h theta xe. Basically, you have theta 0, you have theta 1. You will move so many things. You will start calculating gradients, not derivatives, because derivatives is when you have just one variable. But here we have so many, so we will calculate gradients. When we see gradients, cost function is basically something that's going to point you in direction where you're going to get a minimum loss. Thing is with those things that there are local minimums and there are global minimums. So it can sometimes point to a local minimum and get stuck in there and not go to the global minimum. In problems like this one, it's very easy. There's just one minimum and it's a global one. So we're good to go. It's really easy to get there. But in the example on the right, we have a complex function. It's not convex. So here we can get stuck at points where it's local minimum, and that can be problematic. Anyhow, it can depend on our loss function. So we can find so many optimization algorithms like the stochastic gradient descent, the RMS prop, the Adam optimization algorithm. They can get you closer. So we got started in the red parts, and then we ended here at the blue part. Here we ended at a local minimum, yet there is a global minimum here. So we didn't really do a great job at this. That's why sometimes we should iterate more, and we should sometimes change the optimization algorithm that we're using. Anyhow, this is just a small glimpse. So if you really want to dive deeper into those concepts, there are so many resources out there. You can always ask for guidance, but there are so many endless resources. There are so many fields of application of AI. I just put here a few examples. So first, I'd like you to get the basic concepts of machine learning, which can be something like, okay, so if you were to start a to-do list, so maybe you should consider starting with mastering a programming language like Python, which is really advisable. Then maybe acquire some math skills that are needed for data science, especially the statistics and probability stuff, because we use them a lot in the data part at first. EDA, the exploratory data analysis. There's the basic ML tasks, the supervised learning, the unsupervised, difference between them, what's reinforcement learning. So the basic stuff, the basic about theory and concepts of behind machine learning. 2, the exploratory data analysis. Then the basic algorithms, linear regression, logistic regression, KNN, K-means, and all of that. That would be ML basics. You can start from here. If you got all of that, you can start with the computer vision. Here we can find classification, object detection, instance segmentation or image segmentation, emotion detection. Here I put some examples. So the object detection would be something like that. In computer vision, it would detect objects and give you the probabilities of it being that object. For the image segmentation, it would segment your image. And for the emotional intelligence, the emotion detection, it would give you probabilities of the presence of the emotions in the picture. That's for the computer vision. As for the NLP, natural language processing, there are so many things out there, like chatbots, like text traduction, text generation, text classification, speech recognition. All of those fall into the NLP umbrella. So there's language modeling. We all use that every day. We all profit from that. So the next word from on it would predict or give you a recommendation for the next word. As for the generation, text generation, it would be able to generate a whole text just for some words that you started. It would finish your text. Anyhow, there are so many other applications of natural language processing, like speech recognition, like text translation, like chatbots. And the fourth part is time series and forecasting. This is widely used in the industry. It would be something like, analyzing the trend, the seasonality, the stationarity, doing the forecast for the future demand. That's very useful in our world. And the stock price prediction, you'll just predict what's the next price. That's really useful, especially for the trading bots. The time series are really used in the trading bots.
There is a question in the chat box. Sarah said, what are basic requirements for starting in deep learning? Think that I should learn it first.
Right. Deep learning, it's deep. So the preference, you start with machine learning. You get some basics. You just especially EDA, exploratory data analysis. You explore your data. Then you just attack neural networks. Literally attack. Convolutional neural networks are going to be your friend. LSTMs, long short-term memory, so much math behind them. So it's really nice to know the background of the math. There are so many courses that can help you. One I know for sure can help is TensorFlow Developer Professional Certificate on Coursera. I can send it to you later on, or I can put some resources in the slides. I'll share it with you all. It can be really helpful, specifically because it's professional course though. So there are 4 courses. It starts with about the basics. It will help you learn some coding skills. It will help you learn how to you will get comfortable with coding after finishing the courses. You will get the basics.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, you learn a lot when you do a project. So deep learning is basically neural networks. Just do a project, try to implement it. Let's go to the glossaries. We finished the last part of the presentation, and then we will start the Q&A part. All right. So what I want you to grasp on before finishing the presentation, I want you to remember the CRISP-DM methodology. If you're going to do a machine learning project or data mining project or anything that is artificial intelligence, just use the CRISP-DM methodology. That's a very nice graph, just to get your head clear, to have a clear idea about math, to know that math and statistics are very important. Computer science, coding skills, Python and all of that are very important. And business knowledge and domain knowledge is very important too. And these are types of machine learning that I presented to you today. There are 3 types that I presented: the supervised, the unsupervised, and the reinforcement learning. Basically, reinforcement learning is learning from your mistakes. Unsupervised, it's data-driven, so it looks to your data. It doesn't really look to a class, and it will give you clusters. And the supervised learning, it's task-driven, so it will predict it's either classification or regression. So it will give you a value or a class. And the big picture, data science, within it there is artificial intelligence, within it there is machine learning, and within it there is deep learning, and then we find the artificial neural networks, which are the door to the next future artificial brain, literally. And there's a last diagram I'd like you to keep in mind, that if you have so much data, deep learning is the one to go. But if you don't have so much data, machine learning is the way to go. So don't think about creating ML models with neural networks that are so big and all of that if you don't have so much data. Because deep learning feeds on data. It needs so much data. Machine learning needs data too, a lot of data, of course, but it will give you good performance if you don't have so much data. Anyhow, there's this saying that says there is no reason and no way that a human mind can keep up with an artificial intelligence machine by 2035. Please, Scott. And yeah, have any questions? Let's take questions if there are. So for
Feel free to ask, guys.
yeah.
I have a question. About the math in data science. How can someone get improve his skills and get more involved into that kind of math?
There is one way that I know for sure can help. It's reading articles. Articles can help a lot because they give you details and they give you the background, they give you resources. There are so many other fun ways, like watching videos. I remember going through Galvanizer website. They have great resources. Galvanizer, there are so many YouTube channels like StatQuest. StatQuest can help a lot.
Yes.
StatQuest and here. Also for the Coursera. I'll add them to the presentation and resources. Is there any other questions?
يلا يا جماعة اسألوا ما تحشموش. They have another question. You talked about the projects وكل شيء. How can someone start with beginner-friendly projects to apply knowledge or to gain knowledge in that field?
Right. There is one way that I went through. So basically, at first, I got theoretical knowledge. Theoretical, like I knew in theory what I could do, but I couldn't really do it. At some point, مشيت على Coursera. I opened some courses. I had deadlines, so I had to commit, and I did commit. حكاية شهر كملت هذيك 4 courses that I told you about in 1 month. It took some effort. The thing is, in those courses, you will find tasks, projects, small projects that are really useful. You will learn a lot from them. They can help, like to boost you, give you like a first step, and they will motivate you somehow. Because sometimes when you do like a شوية كل مرة you improve, you feel like you've done something. كل مرة there is achievement. You get addicted to it. You can't stop. You start liking it.
Usama asked, any predictions of the future of AI?
Yeah, I agree. So احنا في تونس مثلا بنسميهم نعملوا في العجب في الاي خصوصا خاطر عنا لاستديف. كومون لاستديف عملت انجازات كبار and they're Tunisians. So AI في تونس تسمى حاجة طيارة برشا. like احنا في تونس نسميهم برابر بلدان اخرين في الاي yeah فما برشا مثلا حتى في الستاج. I find there are so many opportunities في الاي برشا so many people يجمعوا يعملوا ستاج في الاي that's really incredible. You just need to know the basics. وتجم تعمل بروجيات. It's so easy to do projects في الاي فما so many competitions too. حتى competitions hackathons حتى online. I mean I know online is not as fun. It can teach you a lot. خاطر تكبس روحك يعني. ديما لازم deadline الله غالب.
Usama asked, any predictions of the future of AI?
Yeah, I agree. So احنا في تونس نسميهم نعملوا في العجب في الاي خصوصا خاطر عنا لاستديف. كومون لاستديف عملت انجازات كبار and they're Tunisians. So AI في تونس تسمى حاجة طيارة برشا. like احنا في تونس نسميهم برابر بلدان اخرين في الاي. فما so many opportunities في الاي. برشا so many people يجمعوا يعملوا ستاج في الاي that's really incredible. You just need to know the basics. وتجم تعمل بروجيات. لازمك الكبسة كي تمشي للإيفينمون كي تلقى إيفينمون AI في competition go for it حتى لو كان ما تعرفش. Get to learn. Yes.
I think Ahlem asked which programming languages are used for AI.
So one that's widely used it's Python. خاطر Python عنده community كبيرة وديجا حضروا libraries كبار. تفكروا كي قلت لكم machine learning فما كائنان ومدري شنو decision tree هيكم كلهم already programmed. You don't have to worry about details. You just like تحط راني نحب decision tree تحط few parameters تحط your data. You basically got your model. So yeah Python الحاجة الباهية اللي فيه هي عنده community كبيرة. دونك الكوميونيتي هذيك كل مرة يجي يخدموا على حاجة يقعدوا يبروغراميو يحضروا library ويحطوا open source. So Python is widely used. فما زاد R language it's used زاد أقل والكوميونيتي متاعها ممكن أقدم. But yeah Python is more used. خاطر زاد في Python فما TensorFlow. So yeah basically the TensorFlow هو اللي استعمل فيه برشا like neural networks وحكاية هذيك. It's really beautiful.
Yes. I have a question before Aya. So the background بتاعك you're an industrial engineering student in NEET. بويسك عنا معناها EIS في ال IEEE متاعنا كان تحكي لنا شوية شنو العلاقة معناها اللي بين الاندستري والداتا ساينس و how you get involved وانتي معناها من industry background في الدومين هذا الكل.
Alright, that's beautiful. So l'industry عملت revolutions. Started with the Nash industry revolution هذيك 0 l'industrie 4.0 طيب حسيلو واصلين ل 5.0. So basically في ال 4.0 والحكاية هذيك they included ال AI وال IoT. So في الindustry AI it's a huge thing. It's there for good. They're using it a lot actually. خصوصا في time series or predictions like في sales like to predict قداش باش يستحقوا باش يحضروا باش يعرفوا بلوزمون قداش demand باش تجيهم. all of that they use machine learning models. صحيح فما statistical methods قبل كانوا يستعملوهم كيما الأريمة وكل شيء but AI is proven to be more efficient. That's actually one of the projects اللي خدمت عليهم time series عملناهم مع هينكل which is an industry. project معهم كان في ال AI technically. So كما قلت لكم هم برشا بروجيات والاندستري تستحق برشا ال AI.
I think Aya asked before which course on Coursera you recommend for us.
and I recommend a course هم 4 courses هي كما نقولوا في الاخر كي تكملهم تاخذ فازه نتاع كيفاش يقولوا professional certificate ولا حاجه كيما هكاك نتاع 4 courses مع بعضهم. نحط لكم اللينك في البرزنتيشن هذه في الاخر ونبارطاجيو معكم برزنتاسيون ان شاء الله. So you will find it there. علو تلقاي يحكي لك على الكودينج معناها كيفاش تعمل callback وبعديك يحكي لك على CNN convolutional neural networks. بعديك فما كورس يحكي لك عن NLP يعطيك البيسكس الكل بتاع NLP. بعديك تلقى كورس يحكي لك على time series يعطيك البيسكس الكل بتاع time series. تكمل الكورسز هكوما أي بروجي تحب تخدمه براتيكمون تنجم تخدمه جوست باش تعمل دي ريشيرش وكل شيء باش تبراتيكي أكثر باش تديباغي أكثر خاطر believe me باش تعديو برشا وقت تديباغيو. Nobody's gonna get there من غير debugging. Okay.
Yes. I think Ahlem asked before which assessment is used to test the intelligence of the machine.
Right. And I'm getting the vibe of something here. Assessment خاطر فما وقتها نتفكر حكاية كله كيفاش الماشين فما assessment إذا كان human being يحكي معاها يستخيلها human being دونك تتسمى تعديت في تيست مدري شنو and she made it through the test. فما actually 2 types of intelligence. فما narrow intelligence وفما general intelligence. so هذاك الجنرال اللي هو to be honest مازال وفي تونس ماكش باش تلقى منه معناها I'm sorry it's really fun هو صعيب قاعدين يخدموا عليه في النازا ذو يخدموا عليه في النازا دون سونس مش يحبوا يقنعوا الهيومن بين انه هذاك هيومن بين ما يحبوا يعوض الهيومن بين باش يمشي للمارس باش يعطيهم samples basically so قاعدين يخدموا عليه في النازا ديجا حضرت لشكون ديريامون حكى عطات فورماسيون معناها حكيت لنا على الحكايه دي so yeah it's there أما الأسسمنت basically هو أما إذا كان classification ترى الأكيورسي متاعك accuracy هي practically قداش you got حوايج right على التوتال متاع البرودكشنز متاعك or something like that فما F1 score فما so many حاجات اللي تنجم you assess بيهم قداش you got your machine to be good فما زاد mean squared error هذوما كلهم لك تحسب بيهم اللوس متاعك in general إذا كان regression problem so that's a way to assess how good your model is I hope I answered you أحلى the AI can be helpful
You can open your mic.
The AI can be helpful in fraud detection using different machine learning algorithms. Yeah, fraud detection is actually موجود على الآخر من ال AI كيف projects yes موجودين. Osama, I think could you send us some names? You know like Kaggle. Yeah, definitely. donc أنا طنلمد الريسورسز اللي نعرفهم الكل باهين ونحطهم في سلايد في البرزنتاسيون.
Thank you. I think Imen Masmoudi asked, technically speaking, about AI, how much are we close to talk about machines consciousness? And is there a debate about that inside the community of AI in Tunisia?
وأنا نتفكر I heard an expert once talk about that خاطر أنا I don't really know I'm no expert أما I heard أنه ما فماش بريمون الحكاية دي متاع machine consciousness I heard some rumors يقولوا بلي شنو conscious they got a little conscious so they had to stop them ومدري شنو stuff like that و I heard زيدا like من ناس قالت لنا معناها فما robot it was so funny قالت conversation معاه they got really like they have emotions and stuff like that so maybe definitely أما حوايج كما هكا usually ما يعطيوكش الصحيح ما يخرجوش it's كما قلت لك أنا I'm no expert so I wouldn't really know أما I heard rumors كما قلت لك I heard حاجات صحاح كما قلت لك هذه من الناس قالت راهو funny وكل شيء أما نعرفش إسكو it's really consciousness ولا it's just NLP maybe it's natural language processing just قاعد يحكي like a human being وكو مش معناه it's real ولا they're gonna act upon it خاطر وقت اللي تقول consciousness it's someone who's going to act upon feelings and they don't really act they just talk and talking is something and consciousness is something else so I don't think so to be honest I don't think أنه اللي قالته لنا عليه معناها في النازا means أنه فما consciousness I think it's not I think it's just NLP فما حد شيء يعطينا حاجة صحيحة كلهم I think What are the different software platforms for AI development when you say in AI development أنا usually مثلا نستعمل كولاب Google Colab I don't know if you use it it's really useful فما زاد على الكاجو كيف حتى فما النوت بوك اللي على الكولاب الفازة الباهية في هذوما كونهم يعطيوك resources like كأنك الكمبيوتر متاعك is kinda super computer so في GPU قوي عندك limited hours of GPU usage عندك TPU that's great accelerators you can train very fast like إذا تستعمل TPU like أقسم الوقت متاعك على 200 basically so that's huge so هذا تلقاهم في الكولاب تلقاهم في الكاجل Jupyter notebooks I think ما نستعملش جوبيتر نوتبوكس برشا to be honest. تعجبني جوجل كولاب وكمان. But yeah. أحلام it's okay you still have احنا نكمل 10:30 so you still have أقل من 4 ساعة بشوي so it's okay ask away أنا توا على حسابكم من هنا للنص. Thank you. Maybe it would be useful لو كان يزيدوا feature في Google Meet بتاع someone is typing. I mean, imagine how fun would that be?
Yes,
you know,
for sure.
It's typing. شاشة.
Can you tell us about your experience as a tech maker ambassador with Google?
Yeah, so Google عنده so many programs. وباسically كل program تعمله تحط عليه manager or more وفما MENA region مثلا team lead على programs كلهم كل شيء they are really nice. So basically they provide resources يعملوا لنا sessions و academies وحتى كي كنت مثلا GDSC lead عملوا لنا كنت في بزوز بروجرامات كنت في GDSC قالوا لي كنت GDSC كاب بعديك قالوا لنا GDSC leads الفيميلز الكلكم you can apply and we recommend you so they recommended us I applied I got in في البروجرام بتاع Women Tech Makers it's very nice هما الكونسبت متاعه يقول لك أنه مفماش so many women in the tech field so let's encourage them. That's basically the idea. They want to encourage women to get in the tech field and to become ambassadors. They look for good leadership skills, people who are community leaders, stuff like that. باش يعطيهم resources. يقولوا لهم you can organize events, you can like host workshops, stuff like that. يعطينا resources, يعملوا لنا academies. They get us opportunities, scholarships. حكايات عم أحلام. So إذا كان مثلا I reach I see potential in you. That's for sure.
Thank you.
If you were a woman. Sorry.
So you need to be a GDSC member to apply in that.
No, it's open for everyone. It's just whomever they recommend, they encouraged us. خاطر احنا ديجا في جوجل program فما other programs like GDG, Google Developer Groups. حتى هما community leaders. وفما Google Developer Experts, فما Google Developer Google Accelerator or Google for Startups Accelerator. فما حتى Google Africa Developer Scholarships. هذا program حتى هو program. هذا I'm in this one too. So أنا basically.
Is there communities on social media? How to get informed about these programs and all?
فما LinkedIn هم يخدموا أكثر على LinkedIn. Google developers. If you follow them on LinkedIn, you can find so many opportunities. You can befriend me on Facebook. Usually إذا فما حاجة مبارتاجيها. تحدد application دنيا So فما hackathon these days. I don't know if that's a question or because there are so many hackathons. Yeah, of course.
question.
Yes. Yes, question. Okay. So from the AI hack. AI hack عادك من قريب.
Yes. 31 août.
It's really close. أنستجيب تشتغلوا ويا وجوجل. Other than that, فما الإندابة normalement déjà في ساعة الإندابة من بقى 400 حد تسيبكم في ساعة مسكروا الريجستريشن شفتها من أول لعبة يداني وجيت في الويتنج ليست. Oh my god. So yeah, فما so many hackathons في AI. Actually فما so many competitions في الكاجو تلقاهم موجودين even for money. فما data camp actually ما قلت لكمش عن data camp. Data camp is very useful guys. فيها برشا resources على المحلهم، فيها courses على المحلهم، تنجموا تسيرتيفوا بيها، فما certifications معترف بيهم متاع data camp. They're really nice. حسيلو data camp is very useful. It's a learning platform. Thank you. Thank you so much.
He is Rast chairman. He told me that he is a friend of yours.
Annie, yeah. Yeah, hello Annie. As you 07 minutes. I hope that you all enjoyed tonight's session. إذا كان عندكم questions ask away. حتى مش على AI, anything. You can ask anything. Someone asked me a question earlier, the difference between computational intelligence and artificial intelligence. So, yeah, there is a difference. I actually done some research. There is a short answer, there's a long answer. Basically, plus ou moins يخدموا على نفس الحاجات. فما حاجات يركزوا عليهم أكثر في ال CI وما يركزوش عليهم في ال AI. وفما حاجات يركزوا عليهم في ال AI وما يركزوش عليهم في ال CI. في ال CI الأكثرية يركزوا على البيولوجي. يعني إذا كان فما theory في البيولوجي they would implement it directly في ال CI. But في ال AI they base their work on math and statistics. So إذا كان it's not proven في math, though it is biology stuff, they wouldn't really believe in it. So that was fun. So في ال CI يركزوا برشا على البيولوجي. Like مثلا neural networks والحكاية دي الكل. هي it is proven mathematically later on حاجات معينة. أما ال original متاعها is biology. So I think that sometimes if you implement something that's not there, maybe you will later, maybe you can prove it on later on. You would go faster, the CI. You would go much faster. Sometimes you can't really prove it. علول بالكل مثلا كعملوا relo activation function. An expert said it works better and I don't know why, but it just does. So we used it. وبعديك قال لك actually relo معناه التنويل اللي قبل الزيرو والآخر تحطه كما هو. So mathematically speaking, عرفت they like saying that for mathematically speaking. Yeah, but whatever. It just works better وكو. شنو رأيك في الفيوتشر متاع دومين AI في تونس؟ No, it's okay, بالعكس. دومين متاع AI في تونس؟ Yeah, I see it's bright. So many people بداو يحسوا بالقيمة متاع ال AI. That's really nice. I see أنه فما few old people that are actually interested. That's promising. So yeah, I think it's going to be better in the next 3 years. خصوصا like الجنراسيون تاعنا تو مش كيما الجنراسيون قبل. So الجنراسيون تاع تو تؤمن برشا بالحاجة دي. So yeah, hopefully it will get brighter. It can only get brighter. Thank you.
I don't know. كنت تعرف إنه في إسبري عنا معناها AI سبيسياليتي AI عنا data science معناها ديجا مقسمة. دونك شنو تنجم اما فما دي سبيسياليتي اخرين ما يتعمقوش برشا. شنو تنجم تنصح معناها اللي معناها للأوتو فورماسيون تاع لي سبيسياليتي الكل باش ينجموا they get involved in AI. شنو البروجرامز اللي ينجموا يعملوهم وحدهم. and thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful question. So, from my experience, وقت اللي en général نكون حاجة ما عنديش عليها فكرة وعندي وقت وفما opportunity باش ناخذ عليها فكرة ديريكتومون ناخذ عليها فكرة. يعني عامل البريمير أنا نتفكر عديته أي workshop يعرضني في فيسبوك. I just join in, like نلقى registration form, I just fill it in. عرفتك اللي يقول لك with no second thoughts, أنا with no first thoughts من أصله معناها. I just fill it in. عندك وقت free time معناها. It's a workshop. Why would you think? You just go there. تعيش روحك. go. You learn. وشوي بشوي تولي عندك فكرة. وشوي بشوي الفكرة هذيك تولي تنجم تخدم بها بروجيات. وبشوي بشوي كل شيء بشوي بشوي. فمش حد تولد هكاك يعني عنده المعرفة الكل. impossible. So yeah, basically تلقى opportunity ما تريحش. Always keep on learning. Don't you ever think أنك سبا فهمت الحاجة هذيك, because you will be surprised. You don't want to be surprised. على الأقل من الأول أعرف إن أنتي there is always room to grow. Come. There's always room to grow. أي workshop يعرضك أحضر له. حتى لو كان كتحس باللي سافا تعرف على حاجة هذيك و you thought أنك مذكرها. You can never تذكر حاجة. So yeah, هو أنا I say أنه you can never say تذكر حاجة, but it's not true. I theoretically it feels like it's not true. أما if you think أنه سافا سكرتها وقتها سافا ما عادش تنجم تتعلم. That's not good. You'd rather أنك always you feel like تنجم تتعلم خير. So don't just go.
You're so inspiring.
Thank you. From places to learn. From boring places to learn. Learning is not going to be always fun. Sometimes from حوايج boring but are necessary. Sometimes you can somehow convince yourself that they are fun. And that's my approach. Fun article! Oh no, it's not fun, but I know it is fun. Come on. It can be fun. I mean, especially وقت اللي تفهمه, you get something useful out of it. So you can make it fun. You can convince yourself that it's fun. Lie to yourself, it's okay. I mean, for learning, it's totally okay to lie to yourself and say that it's fun. Because it can turn out to be actually fun, really. Yes. Yeah.
Any other question?
It's 30 minutes. Okay.
بالضبط.
Alright, يعطيكم الصحة, guys. Thank you, Arish Osama, for having me. That was really fun.
Thank you, Imen, for accepting to be with us. Really, we enjoyed the session. Merci على الآخر. برسمي very nice knowledge ودومين محلي و you are so inspiring. Thank you. إن شاء الله تكون معنا في other sessions. That will be our honor to host you again. زيدا I wish اللي IEEE members esprit وإلا حتى ضيوفنا من other student branches و other university enjoyed the session. I see you tomorrow في deep learning session with our dear Mohammed Soubi. Imen